Hi there, welcome along to another video here with me, Jennifer Kirk, and today we've got a box opening and review. I've been picking up a few bits and pieces, so without further ado, should we go and take a closer look? What we've got here is one of the latest releases from Oxford Rail, and they've been putting out quite a few new re-liveries, and this particular one caught my eye, not least because it's lettered up as London and South Western Railway on the side there. And this particularly appeals to me because I'm trying to put together a rake of rolling stock that is principally suitable for my ready-to-run pre-grouping locomotive fleet. Now, that's not to say that this wagon is actually a pre-1923 one. It has to be said that in Britain we're very, very good at going, but we've always done that this way. And it wasn't uncommon for wagons, private owner wagons, to continue being lettered up for railway companies which had long since disappeared through the grouping. So it isn't a guarantee that this is a pre-1923 liveried wagon, but certainly it's a pretty good start. Now, I'm just looking around here. There we are. We've got the code on the end, and this is OR76MW5001, and it's a T-Bowler, London, number 101 5-plank mineral wagon. It's quite unusual for a 5-planker to be used as a mineral wagon. It wasn't unheard of, but certainly the 7 and 8-plank wagons tended to be the ones used for mineral, otherwise known as coal, generally traffic. And the 5-plank opens tended to be used for more general merchandise. But that doesn't mean to say that this is entirely wrong. Now, pretty standard packaging, going to take all that out. And what we've got here is another one of the splendid Oxford Rail 5-plank wagons. We've reviewed a few of these, so I'm not really going to dwell too much on the construction. Safe to say that this is every bit as good as any of the previous wagons would have led us to believe. So really what I'm going to concentrate on is the livery application. And it is pretty crisp. So we can see the T-Bowler and the smaller writings, things like coal merchants, the number 101, all of these details come out pretty crisply. There doesn't appear to be any bleed through from the black through the white, and it's something that I've mentioned quite a lot with the Oxford Rail wagon reviews, that with some of the red liveries, Oxford Rail has struggled with overlaying with the tempo printing the white lettering, and it's kind of bled through at a kind of pinky colour. But we're not getting any of that on this, and I'm pretty certain it's because the tempo livery application has been done pretty well, rather than it being that the black doesn't show that up as much. But certainly that is nice and crisp. I don't normally go for the black wagons, but for the reasons that I've already gone into, namely the lettering as the London and South Western Railway, and the fact that this actually just something about it I thought was particularly striking, I've gone for this one. It has to be said that where it says number 101, that doesn't necessarily mean that there were 100 other wagons owned by T-Bowler. It was a common trick, certainly in days gone by, for companies to letter up their wagons in higher numbers to give an illusion of a much larger fleet than they actually had. And it was really just a business strategy to make the company look like it was bigger and more successful than it might actually have been. That said, it might be the case that T-Bowler did have another 100 wagons, but there's a part of me doubting that, and it may be that their wagon fleet maybe only ran to one wagon that was numbered as 101, just, you know, because. The rest of the tempo printing is pretty crisply done. We've got the almost like an italicized handwriting type font for the tear and the load. But then on the sole bar, we've got a number of different plates, and again, As I've explained on some of the previous videos, these will most likely include the railway company that this wagon was first registered to upon being built, the builder's plate, and there may even be a place on there to do with "for repairs, please advise." And of course, it has to be remembered that in days before, a lot of the communications that we take for granted, it could be quite difficult to notify a wagon owner that there was a problem with that wagon that needed rectifying. So generally speaking, these wagons carried a plate that told people what to do, where to send the wagon if repairs were needed. And, you know, it's kind of hard to realise just how big the world must have felt when the only way to communicate with people at the other end of the country was a very expensive phone call, and there was no guarantee that they actually had a phone. And it might be that you had to drop a letter in the post and wait however many days it was for that to get through, wait a few days for a reply, and that was even if it had got through. But there we go. The rest of the wagon, well, there's not really much going on. It's quite a plain livery, but sometimes the plain liveries do come out very, very striking. We've got the white wall tyres on the wheels, and there's been a lot of debate about what they're for. I was always told it was a way of highlighting cracks if they developed in days before ultrasound, but other people have put forward other ideas. But certainly, it made the wagons look quite smart, so maybe that was the reason that that was done. There's no independent train brakes on this wagon, but it does have separately applied handbrakes on either side, which is pretty common for this type of wagon. The handbrake levers, they're not metal on this, but they are a pretty good thin plastic, and it's quite strong. There's a bit of flex to all of this, so it'll stand up to a few knocks without a risk of getting damaged. The couplings are in pretty standard NEM pockets, and the actual mounting points, again common to all Oxford rail wagons, is very thoughtfully provided between the wheel faces, so that from a side-on view, should you decide to use alternative coupling means, or even something like 3-link couplings, you can remove these in their entirety, and you're not left with an ugly mounting point, which you would otherwise might have to do something to disguise or remove. So that is pretty well thoughtfully thought out. We've also got the representation of the wagon underframe. I think Oxford Rail probably did that because they could rather than any other reason. The wheels themselves, we've got, they're the split spoke wheels, and they're all metal, and they're pretty free running actually. So it's a pretty standard wagon in that respect. We've got the turned metal buffer heads, and they are actually very, very well done. They're nice and thin, but unlike early releases of Oxford Rail wagons, these do feel like they are firmly attached. It was a big problem with some of the earlier wagons that these could come out very, very easily. Inside the wagon, we've got a representation of what I guess would have been bare unpainted wood, but it's become a bit of a bugbear in a lot of these videos that the representation in model form of unpainted wood is very, very difficult to get right. I have to say that the colour that Oxford Rail have chosen is pretty unoffensive to me, and if it really does bother you a lot, it's very easy to add a load or even just some weathering, and that would really bring this out. We've got the relief of the planks, and if you were to use something like a weathering ink rubbed in there and then cleaned off so that it just ends up lying in the grain and in the gaps between the planks, it really would bring the detail in this wagon to the fore, and I think actually a bit of easy work like that would really make the most of this. Overall, I have to say a good solid release from Oxford Rail. It's a nice livery, one which I don't recall having ever seen before from any of the other manufacturers, so it does fill a little niche in the ready-to-run market. I'd give it a good solid 9 to 9.5 out of 10. I know I'm very generous, but really there's very little, if not nothing, to really fault with this wagon. Well, I hope that was informative to you. Don't forget to like this video and share it too, and also subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and you'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. And you can have a look back through our back catalogue. We've got an awful lot of different stuff, so something to please everybody. But once again, thanks for watching. Always a great pleasure to have you along for the ride. But until next time, you take exceptionally good care of yourself, and we'll see you here again. And this is me, Jennifer Kirk, saying bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you in part thanks to the generous donation of my fans on Patreon. And a special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Mark Anthony, Michael Churchwood, Mark McShane, and Bob 310. If you'd like to help support the show, head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk. Thank you. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T. Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.